Hello everybody, this is Alex from Hardcore Guides, my guide for God of War 3 on Chaos difficulty. Today we're doing part 14 entitled The Labyrinth. So, we finally made it. After all this time, we're finally going to get into the actual true Labyrinth part, I guess you could say. Because we've been through the caverns twice, 3 times, 4 times now. And, you know, of course the entire time, you have the actual main Labyrinth just sitting up there waiting to finally be discovered and, well, I guess fixed into place. The Labyrinth itself is a sort of like puzzle mix with just waves of enemies and stuff. And this part's pretty cool. I kind of like the Labyrinth sections a bit. Even though I would argue that it does take a while to kind of go through, and I'm not a fan of things that take a little too long, especially with how many waves of enemies you have to fight constantly. There's at least 2 big waves I can think of on the top of my head, but that's still just enough to consider, you know, relatively big. Anyway, I know I keep repeating myself, but I'm kind of out of it right now, to be honest with you. I don't know. It's just, I've been rendering these videos. I've been trying to do other things while rendering these videos, and it's just been an off day. Like, it's still Thursday. It's only like 6, you know, 6 o'clock on, like, January 11th right now, like, Thursday, and I've just been trying to pump these bitches out as best I can. Like, this wasn't exactly recorded one after another. You know, I actually had to render the last episode and get that one done. That took about an hour to render because this computer is stinky butt poo-poo garbage with rendering. That's just, yeah, this is my old computer I render things on. It's mainly just to give me space to do other things on my actual computer, so that way I'm not worried about this. I just kind of leave it in the background, let it do its own thing. Away from me, pretty much. Kind of like do double the work. You know, kind of helps. But yeah, honestly, like I said, the Labyrinth sections, they're kind of alright. I don't mind the puzzle aspect of it, to be honest with you. Again, the one thing I don't like is just the super amount of horde wave enemies you have to deal with at once. With, like, no checkpoints, with no health, you know, coming up and stuff. Or health chests, sorry. No recharge for a bit. But this is not going to be the first wave just yet. It will come. I kind of forgot the statues even spawn here, to be honest with you, the other variants of statues. But by this point in time, you've at least definitely probably potentially dealt with these guys enough. I probably don't really need to exactly tell you, but if you've never played God of War 3 just yet, then, yeah, basically just Cestus works wonders. I mean, granted, if you haven't played this yet, you might not know what I'm talking about with the Cestus, but yeah, basically just punch them, you know, that kind of thing. Parry them when you can. Just do whatever damage you normally do. These guys are pretty much just practically at this point fodder. And it kind of sucks too, because this is actually one of my favorite enemy types in the entire game. I've always been a fan of like Juggernaut type enemies that are like bigger than Kratos. Usually like humanoid Juggernaut type too. I think that's kind of fun. If anything, I wonder if I could theoretically blame God of War for that particular interest being piqued anyway, because I think, you know, growing up I probably didn't have that much of an interest in, like, you know, small guy beats big guy. I think it was always just like, you know, normal people fight type thing. But I would probably argue if it wasn't God of War's fault, then it definitely probably enhanced that feeling of, like, the cool factor of small person defeats big giant thing. Not even just like in size or scope, but just in terms of power as well. I kind of like that underdog type thing. I mean, I think most everybody likes underdog stuff anyway, but, you know, I kind of like it shown here, I guess you could say. Although, to be fair, Kratos is kind of less of it. Well, I guess he probably would have started as an underdog, wouldn't he? Theoretically speaking. I mean, he started his adventure as a mortal, so I don't know. I know I'm not really talking about the guide here, but there's really nothing to exactly explain too much. This section's not that difficult. I mean, if the dogs become too much of a problem, then, you know, magic works fine. AoE, you know, Army of Sparta magic works just fine. Other than that, you know, grab them, kick them into each other, that kind of thing. It's the same old, same old. You know, I don't want this to turn into a Wolverine guide at this point, where it just is me spouting off, like, the same exact shit that I've been spouting off for just about the entire guide in general. Because that was... Alright, look. I'm gonna be honest. That guide was... Well, it should have been done better. I'll say that. It's not that, like, I didn't have good advice or anything like that. I mean, I probably had... I don't remember. I think I had at least some decent stuff. But, it just... Yeah, recording, like, an hour-long chapter was not very smart. I should have cut that shit into parts, man. I should have cut that stuff into smaller parts. But the weird part is, and this is crazy, a lot of people seem to actually have flocked toward my Wolverine guide, which I was surprised by, because out of all the guides I've done in this channel, I have to admit that I personally feel that that's one of those ones where I don't think it really deserved that much recognition as it got, but it ended up getting some anyway. I wasn't too happy with that guide. I would like to, you know, I wouldn't like to go back and redo it, but if I had the energy to do it, if I had the, not even just the time, but yeah, literally just the energy, the motivation, I guess. If I had the motivation to do it, then sure, I'd redo it. I'd do it in smaller parts, that's for sure. There's no doubt. But I got way too up my own head about it and ended up kind of ruining the game a bit. And plus, I mean, eventually the game kind of, in my opinion, gets a bit boring in terms of game design, like level design and stuff, like the chapter 4 shit, chapter 5. Some of it just kind of goes on for a little too long, I guess you could say. It's a bit boring. It's a bit boring. The Sentinel stuff kind of got old, but then again, I'm not really like a hardcore X-Men fan, so maybe I won't appreciate it as much as, say, another one. Also, I know I'm not really talking much about the guide, or talking about what exactly to do. Mainly because I feel like there's really no point. I mean, what I'm doing on screen is just pretty much the quote-unquote, I guess, right way to do things. Considering that I do eventually get the answer to what I need to do, so... Yeah. There's really no need to, I guess, explain the puzzles, because they're not... Well, I mean, if it's your first time going through them, I guess they probably would be kind of a bit weird and hard to understand at first. Well, if anything, I can explain this real quick. So yeah, pretty much, you just got to put this cinder block thing in the appropriate positions to kind of fall down on the other side of the wall when you hit the button. Just put it where I put it, kind of. Although for that one, that second one right there, you don't need to put it right there exactly. Because it's still going to fall right on the very corner. Regardless. Sorry, I didn't mean to yawn there. Holy shit. I'm just tired. Just tired and worn out. I've basically done nothing. Well, I feel like I've done nothing. I've done a lot of shit today. I've rendered like 2-3 videos. I commentated in like a couple videos, you know. I recorded a couple videos for this guide. I think these were recorded today. Gameplay wise? Yeah, I don't know. So this fight, this is our first wave fight. This is what I was trying to explain earlier, where things just kind of go on for a bit too long. However, this one is actually better because this one's a lot better paced. So basically, at certain intervals, the ground is going to create spikes. And something that you might notice, if you're lucky enough to actually get it yourself, you'll notice that enemies actually can die by the spikes. So one small pro tip I can give you is if you're having too much trouble with enemies and they're just being too much of a dick, I would recommend using like an attack like this, like a get off me attack, which the Cestus L1 square is great for that. That way you can of course push them away from you, and not only that, but if there's spikes on the ground that is appearing, you could use those to your advantage to, well, have them get killed that way. So I don't know what's going on here. I think it's just more so a case of the Cestus just not having a long reach. I'm not 100% sure if that's the case. I feel like that might be. But other than that, first wave done. Easy peasy, lemon squeezy. Not too bad. The second wave, though, is Sirens plus the Undead. And this is where things get a bit more annoying because the Sirens themselves cannot be killed by the spikes. One thing, though, is leading enemies into the spikes. So basically just stand there for a bit. You know, don't get hit by them, of course. But try to lead the enemies into them, especially the Minotaurs. You kind of want to get rid of them fast, too, because they're just going to get in the way. Unless you like fighting Minotaurs. Like, I mean, I like fighting them, too. All I'm saying is, if you want to just make your life just a tad bit easier, that would help. Now, I'm using magic, essentially, because not only do these bitches actually give magic back, like a little bit, not much. Even though they do give some back, I just don't like dealing with them anyway, so that's why I'm just using magic. I get surrounded, I get kind of a bit nervous, and then I use it. I would say maybe try not to use as much magic as possible, just in case. You never know when you might need it. Now, granted, we'll probably end up getting enough later anyway, but just saying, you know, you really never know unless you absolutely know for a fact that that's where that's at. Something I think I forgot to explain in previous parts is for the harpies, whenever you're, or those bird things, I think they are harpies, or whatever. Whenever you're hanging on to them, if you don't move, you can actually make it to where they don't struggle nearly as fast as they would if you were to start moving, because Kratos stabs them while he moves. So if you want to keep them afloat for it, just even a tad bit longer, then there you go. Also, this was just a stupid accident of mine. I was just fucking around, hit R2 on accident like an idiot, so it happens. I don't remember if there's anything down there, though, that pit, because I always see that pit, but I never check what's down there. And I wouldn't be surprised if there was something there. Also, I hope you enjoy the double door opening. Because, yeah, I should have cut most of that out, but I didn't. Oh, I guess the only thing down there would have been this, right? Most likely, maybe, I don't know. No, because we're going the other way. I think. I don't know. Also, so now we have Pandora, and this is wave 2, I would say. I would say it's probably a wave of enemies, I would argue. But this is basically the second challenge wave, and not nearly as hard as, like, the third. I think it's the third and final one. But not as hard as, like, the one I'm thinking of in my brain, which I'll tell you when we get there. But this one is relatively somewhat simple. Basically, you just have Gorgon, and you know what that already spells. It spells disaster for anybody else around, because not only does an execution kill grant you access to, well, stoning the enemies, but on top of that, you could use that for a parry, and then just break them that way, or stone them that way, and then just break them as you see fit. And if you don't want to just do that, you can always just grab one of the undead and use it as that ram, that battering ram ability, and go from there and just knock it into the Gorgons and use that to your advantage too. Also, notice how I'm using the Cestus like almost damn near constantly. Technically it's more of a preference thing, but in my opinion, I honestly feel the Cestus, like late game, level 5 Cestus is just insane. It's just damn near stupid with just how destructible it can be. This is a very powerful tool. I guess it really wasn't much of a wave fight. I thought it was. It'll be bigger than that. Also, key little factor here. Sorry, I keep yawning. Key little factor here is that Pandora doesn't really have a health bar. She can't die, as far as I'm aware. She's never died in any of my playthroughs. So, and she basically takes most of the hits anyway. And if you wanted to, you know, it might not be morally correct, but you could always just use her to your advantage. And by that, I mean literally just making it to where the enemies just go for her instead. So just find where she's at, chase the enemies down there, and let them kind of, you know, go toward her and deal with her. And then you don't have to deal with them yourself. So there's a fun little trick you could probably do. Although, to be fair, Pandora doesn't really last that long. There's not a lot of waves of enemies that you really fight with her. You can't really get the most use out of it. Except for, like, a couple of fights. But she's there if you need it, I guess. I never intentionally use her for that. It just ends up happening, and then I just kind of say, you know what? We're here. You know, it's already going on. I'm just gonna use it to my advantage, I guess. And right now, I'm just upgrading just to upgrade. There's no point for me. I don't use the Hades claws. I don't use the Nemesis whip. I can understand why they would be good. I get it. It's just that for me personally, you know, right now I've always been comfortable with the blades. It's just a thing that I've grown attached to for so long. And then for, you know, the Nemean Cestus, it's just, like, in my opinion, a hell of a powerful weapon, to be honest. Like, it's reasonably pretty goddamn strong. So this part here, this is like a timed event. And, again, I've never really had her die to it. So I'm not specifically too sure if she technically could die in this particular area or not. I don't think so, but, you know, why not just, you know, not take that chance and go straight for her. Also, I think the reason why I'm probably hurting all over and just feeling kind of sick and tired, I had unfortunately I had Taco Bell today. I gotta stop eating like shit, but I keep doing that, man. I mean, I do technically have stuff here I could eat, but I craved, you know, that fucking potato taco thing. I was like, God damn it, those things are actually pretty good. Those spicy potato taco things are pretty nice. And now I'm kind of feeling sick even thinking about it. It's like, what the hell happened to me? Yeah, I need to cut back, man. I really need to cut back. If you hear me stop talking, it's probably because I'm yawning. I don't know what the fuck's going on with me. I'm tired. I guess in a way, and it sounds mean when I say this, but, you know, for me, this stuff's not the guide itself. I mean, I have fun. You know, I've had my fun with it, you know, but it's just, when you're watching the gameplay again, and there's nothing to exactly explain, like, how you did it, it's kind of a bit boring for me to do. Now, I'm not trying to say, like, you guys should be bored, too, you know, or that you should feel bad or anything like that. I'm just telling you, you know, as honest as I can, that it can get kind of boring to watch the guide over again if there's nothing specifically interesting or even, like, guide-worthy to talk about, which you could say, like, well, why not just cut that crap out? Like, why not just get to the point? Get to the stuff that, you know, you would actively want to talk about. Well, that's also a problem, too, because these puzzles, you know, they're not necessarily something I really have anything to say about, but I feel like people might still need to see them, and why not? You know, why not just have them in there just because? So this part here, finally we can talk about something neat. I don't want to sound mean, I'm sorry. I'm just tired. But, yeah, this part right here is just relatively fucking annoying and god-awful, but, I mean, it is what it is. It's the main wave fight. This is the second true wave fight. And starting off, we have Sirens. I just do the same usual thing. I use Cestus to beat the living hell out of them. And I've changed my strategy now. Rather than knocking them in the air, our strategy has changed, which is always a good thing to have. That's always something you kind of want to strive for, especially in games like this. You do want to have, like, some different tactics to your advantage. But my strategy now is mainly just using Cestus, doing that good damage that's relatively quick, powerful damage, and then after that, just, you know, if they happen to be in the air, I shoot them. If I need to get away, I shoot them. You know, that kind of thing. For the shield guys, I would say, if you don't want to use magic like I did, just use the L1 square. But magic works so much wonders because it just eliminates the shields altogether. So I would recommend using magic for the Cestus magic to go to the shield guys, just because. But again, if you don't have magic, then L1 square should work just fine. And worst come to worst, let them chase Pandora, you know. That's the one thing about this fight is nobody's truly focused on you the entire time. You can make it to where they don't even give a shit about you half the time if you really wanted to. If that was the way you wanted to play, you could do that. And I would assume that most likely people that watch my content, you know, they probably feel I would assume you guys probably feel the same way. Any tactic is a good tactic as long as it, you know, gets you the win, right? Because that's how I see it when it comes to hard mode stuff. If it works, I'm using it. Well, it depends. I do have a bit of an honor system. You know, I'm not gonna just use mods or use cheats. But if there's like a game that just cheaps me out, I'll use tricks and other similar devices to kind of get around it. And sometimes some things are just too difficult to do unless you try to do them, I guess. And banging your head against the wall isn't always exactly the best answer either. Yeah, right there, I kind of got stuck. I tried getting her down, but she wouldn't come down. I think a charged Apollo bow would probably work, but I'm not sure. I feel like it would. I feel like it would, judging by the next part that I'm doing. Because I had a thing there where I knocked a couple of them down with a charged bow, but I'm not sure they were doing their siren well yet. So after you've taken out the sirens, you're going to have minotaurs, and you're still going to have wraiths to fight, which, to be fair, is not that bad. I would much rather fight minotaurs any day of the week than sirens ever. Sirens are just a fucking nightmare. I mean, wraiths nowadays in this game are way better and way easier to kind of control than they were in like 1 and 2. Because now in this game, when they go underground, they can't do shit now. You can just fucking grab them, you know, L1 circle, grab their ass, and there you go. So after a couple of those guys are done, or potentially at least one Minotaur is done, you're going to have shield guys. Potentially, depending on how far away you are from Pandora, they'll probably be focused on her instead, which that's a great time to kind of go in there and just bully them one at a time. You don't want to take them on at once and waste the magic on them either. I wouldn't waste magic on them either, to be honest with you. Save it for something like this. A situation where you need that Army of Sparta attack to kind of come out and just wipe out, you know, whoever is in the vicinity. And, well, not even just wipe them out, but just potentially, you know, get them off your ass kind of thing. Because once the sirens start popping in, they just make everything just a little too hard, you know? They make everything just a bit more annoying. And the shield guys don't help either, ever. They never do. I used it there. I probably shouldn't have, but I used it there anyway, so just, you know, you see what I do. If that's something you want to you do too, then of course, you know, go right ahead. But for me, I probably should have saved it a bit, but I don't remember. Yeah, this is probably why I should have saved it for, because I think we got more shield guys here. But even if you don't have magic, just at least pick one guy and bully him. That's going to be the strategy for a little while with these next few parts coming up that deals with, at least, well, this part right now, and I guess the next part after this, is I just pick one guy and I bully the fuck out of him because I'm not dealing with that crap. I'm not fighting a whole, you know, I'm not dealing with, you know, quintuplets of fucking shield guys. I'm just saying. So here, I technically probably shouldn't have done this. This wasn't the smartest decision of mine, but Rage of Sparta does at least give you a bit of a defense increase. So even if you do take damage here, you're not gonna like just completely get decimated. I did it just as like a last ditch type effort thing, like, ah, fuck it, I have it, why not? I just don't want to keep fighting these guys. Like, I want this fight to be over with and as quickly as possible, so that's kind of partly why I did that for. But again, you see right there with Pandora, you see how the enemies are mostly just kind of stuck fighting her. And again, that's somewhat the thing that I'm trying to get at, is, you know, something you could use to your advantage to kind of just make this fight somewhat easier than it is. It's not really a hard fight, it's just long. That's the only part of this fight that I can say that sucks, is just fucking long. It goes on forever. And of course, I kept failing the air. Sorry, I kept failing the ground to air combo there on that guy, and I kept accidentally having to grab him over and over again. But it worked because Mr. Other Wraith was too focused on somebody else, so he was focused on Pandora rather than me, and that gave me the advantage, and I took it. So yeah, because that's what I do. I take my advantages. I take my wins when I can. Yeah, apologies about the video if, you know, I might seem kind of out of it. I might seem kind of loopy. Something's going on with me, man. Something's going on with me. I don't know what it is. Like, just random tiredness. Just feeling fat as shit. I mean, I did eat Taco Bell. It's kind of my fault. That feeling of being bloated. I think I did commentary a little too quickly, and I'm talking too much. I'm not breathing enough. So that could be potentially why I'm suffering like this. Well, good news is I'm going to the doctor tomorrow, so you know, I guess we'll see if there's anything wrong with me. I'm gonna take a major guess and say, yeah, there probably is. I'm sure there is. I'm sure they'll find something for me to be fucking terrible at. Like I'm some big fat fuck or something, or I don't know. I know I'm at least 200 pounds. I know that. I don't look like it, but, you know, that's just how much I weigh. Like 220 something, I think. I'm not even really that fat. I just do a little bit of workout stuff here and there, so that helps. But yeah, I'm sure they're gonna just ignore that and just call me a fat fuck. But I don't know. Anyway, I don't know what was up with that. Why there was some weird glitched grab thing there for who the fuck knows? Who the hell knows? But yeah, that's the end of that. I should stop yawning because I need to end off the video. Apologies again, but anyway, hope you at least enjoyed, and see you next time. So take care, everybody.